bit about me. I am actually from Dallas, Texas. Well, I'm actually from a really small town outside of Dallas called Flower Mound. So super small city, not big in softball. Travel ball was not really like super, super big the way it is now. I actually played for a team out of College Station, which is where A&M is. So I was traveling 4 hours every weekend to practice for like 6 hours to drive 4 hours back. So I totally know the grind. Then I joined Glory Gold back when there was only one Glory Gold, the OG Glory. So joined them when I was a senior. I verbally committed as a sophomore to UT, which was super early. But what a lot of people don't know is I actually only got offered 2 scholarships. So even though I went on to play for Team USA and did all these great things at UT, I didn't have a lot of schools looking at me growing up. I had a couple of small local schools. I had West Point, which is Army, which I am not cut out for the Army. And then I had UT and I had Baylor. And growing up, I was dead set on going to A&M. I would have cut off my left arm to go to A&M and be an Aggie. And I went to all the summer camps. I did all the right things. I reached out to the coach and they just weren't interested in me because they already had someone committed in my position. And then also I was a third baseman. I was an infielder growing up, and they told me basically that they don't recruit third basemen, they recruit shortstops and then turn them into third basemen because they had better range. So after having my heart broken for, the foreseeable future after that conversation, Baylor came into the picture. And for those of you that are familiar with Baylor, oh, hold on, my DoorDash is here. Give me one second.
Oh, man.
Times are tough. So after, for those of you that are familiar with Baylor, Baylor is a private school in Waco, so very expensive, and I do not come from money, so had to figure out a way to make that work. And at the time, they were the only people that were offering me that were big time schools. And then UT came in the picture, and I was not having it because I was diehard A&M. Even though they turned me down, I was going to go to A&M. So I wanted nothing to do with UT, and my mom actually made me go to the campus on an unofficial visit. And as soon as I stepped foot on campus, it was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, I didn't see anything. I didn't meet anybody. I literally just got out of the car, saw the city of Austin, and was like, this is it. I don't care what happens. I'm going to do whatever I can to get here. And the coach actually ended up offering me 85%. So I wasn't on a full ride. I actually didn't get a full ride until my senior year of college. So I had to apply for different smaller scholarships, either through academics or something like that. And then after that, I started playing. I was a freshman and I came in, and coach was like, hey, we already have a third baseman, but you can play right field if you want to play. Yeah, I've never touched foot in the outfield unless I was shagging. So I had no idea what I was doing. But at the time, I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I would rather play than sit on the bench. I'm not too big to try something new. So here we go. So I got out there and I looked like a fool. It was horrible. And it was between me and a senior for right field. And so basically that entire fall of my freshman year, I was like, I am going to take the spot. Like, I'm going to do everything I can to get on that field. And sure enough, when spring came around, they put me in right field. I played right field at the University of Texas for 3 years. I did not play third base until my senior year of college, which we did go to the World Series my senior year. So not saying that has any correlation. It's fine. But the point is, I played in every single game my college career because I was open to trying something new. And had I had not done that, I probably wouldn't have seen the field as much as I did. And then from then on, I got to start as a leadoff hitter because not only was I a great hitter, but I was also smart at base running. So I would have a lot of walks. I would get on base. It was like kind of like clockwork, right? I would walk, I'd get on base. Our second hole hitter, Bridget Washington. I don't know if you guys in SoCal are familiar with her, but she was extremely fast, great bunter, great hands. She would bunt, I would steal. When she would bunt, I would go to third, and then Taylor Tom would come up and hit us in, and it was like clockwork. People just couldn't stop us. So that was kind of my story at UT. And then sophomore year, I actually got invited to Team USA. And from sophomore year to I was like 23, 24, I played for Team USA. And I played in World Championships, I played in World Cups, I played in the Pan American Olympics, and then that's pretty much it. Went over to Europe, got to see Canada, got to see Mexico, got to see a lot of places all over the US, which was super cool. I got to play with people that I normally played against. I got to know them as people. And now there's some of like the lifelong best friends that I'll ever have. So little story about me. And then now I actually, when I retired from softball, I moved around a little bit and I landed in California, just out of the Bay Area where I'm at now. And I currently work for a tech startup. So that's really cool too. Very exciting, not super tech savvy, but I'm in sales and it's fun. I get to meet people. I get to make really good money. So just a best of both worlds kind of thing. So
And you coached a little bit
I did.
before that too.
I did, yeah. So my first job out of college, I was a college coach at a school in Massachusetts. It was a D3. So I got to work with a lot of students that are brilliant. I mean, going on to be neurosurgeons and lawyers and dentists and all these, yeah, amazing girls. And the interesting thing about D3 is they don't get athletic scholarships and they're not technically required or like bound to an obligation to attend softball if school is a priority. So I basically had to count on the girls just loving the game and wanting to be there because I legally could not make them go to games, go to practice. I just had to hope they showed up because they wanted to. And I never had an issue. Those girls always wanted to be there and they always found a way, which was really cool too. But I realized I was not a snow bunny and I did not like the snow very much. But I also didn't really like not having time on the weekends or in the summers to travel and do the things that are important to me outside of softball. So I got out of coaching and I started doing lessons. And then I volunteered at a community college in Texas as well while I was doing a full-time job. And then now I actually haven't really done anything in California as far as softball goes, except for the EI camps, which I really love. I love doing those camps. I think they're so fun. So
You pretty much get your dose for the year from those.
yep, I like am jam packed for 7 days, like 8 hours a day, and then I get my softball breaks for like the whole year.
Exactly.
So it's cool.
Cool. Well, do you guys have any questions? You can unmute yourselves and just like give a hand just based on like that's just pretty much her softball story, and we'll get into her more as a person and stuff after that. But just based off the college stuff or anything coaching, Bella?
Oh, I had a question. Like, I wanted to know what your experience was like when you played for Team USA.
It was awesome. To take it a step further with Team USA, actually, so similar situation to UT, when you go to a college, right, and you're probably the best ones on your travel team or the best ones in your city or something like that, and you're used to being the best. And so, and everyone does it. We get to the top and we just think, okay, I'm at the top, like there's nowhere else to go. I'm just going to kind of coast. Well, that comes to a reality quickly because when you go to the next level in college, you're not only getting the best, but you're getting the best from other places around the country. And so now you're putting the best of the best on a team. And it's the same thing with USA, right? You take it a step further. Now you're taking the best of the best from all the schools and putting it on one team. So you're having 17 girls who are the best at softball, and you're having to differentiate yourself by either working harder off the field, getting smarter on the field, lifting weights, running, eating right, whatever it is, studying the game. You're having to constantly learn and adapt to continue to be the one that's going to be on the field. And even then, even if you are the best, sometimes you're not the best for that particular opponent. And you have to understand that everyone has a role on the team and it may not always be a starter. And so that's another thing that I had to learn as well, because coming from someone who was the best where I grew up and who was the best at UT and who, getting on this team with other people like Kaylani Ricketts or Jessica Schultz, Lauren Chamberlain, Raven Siobhan, all these people, you have to understand that like you're just such a small piece in a bigger puzzle. And so that was really cool. And just getting to know these girls as people, because everyone has a different outlook of the game and a different mentality. And so just constantly learning from them too is really awesome. It was hard though. It was hard work. It was exhausting.
I remember you saying when we were talking there at one point, you were like, I just had to hope I kept hitting. And I was like, oh man.
Pretty much it got to the point where it's like there was nothing else to differentiate people except for like hitting. And it's like if you hit, you would play. And it's pretty similar in college too. Not as strict, but USA, it's like if you hit, you'll play. We'll find you a place. If you're not hitting, you ain't playing. So
Right field, whatever.
right, doesn't matter. Yeah.
Anybody else? I'm playing. Viv, go ahead, babe.
How do you mentally prepare yourself for a game?
So mentally for me, I would watch film. I would definitely watch film on pitchers because I knew that I was a better hitter than I was a defensive player. I wasn't a bad defensive player. I just knew that hitting was really my niche. And so I wanted to be great at it. And so I would pick apart different pitchers and learn like what their tendencies were, what their pitches were, speed, like tendencies, all of that stuff, because I wanted to know how I could deconstruct them when we were in a game. My biggest thing for an approach to softball is and you probably heard this a million times, but it's 90% mental, 10% physical. I was the kind of player that wanted to get in your head and destroy you. I didn't want to destroy you. I mean, I wanted to destroy you on the field, but mostly I wanted to do it mentally. And so every time I got an opportunity to do that, I would take advantage of it.
Yep. Ale, go ahead.
How do you, well, for you, how would you get into a person's mindset? Like a pitcher or a defensive player?
Sure. So a lot of it is capitalizing on the moment, right? So if a pitcher, and it's all about your approach, right? And the way from the way you walk, from the way you talk, from the way you interact with your coach and your team, and the way you carry yourself, regardless of what happens in the game. So if you make an error, if you swing at a bad pitch, it's how you react to that that's going to get you to the next step. So like, for example, we've all been there, right? Like we've all faced a rise ball pitcher who has a nasty rise ball and nobody can seem to lay off of it. And it doesn't matter. You know what's coming and you still swing at it, right? And you all look silly. So when that would happen to me, a lot of times pitchers, their game plan was to come back with that rise ball knowing you were going to swing at it because you looked stupid. But the whole mentality is not letting it affect you and not getting frustrated, because if they don't see you break, they're still trying to figure out a way that they can mentally beat you. But as soon as you show emotion that you're frustrated, you're angry, or you're whatever, they're going to take advantage of that. And so the more ice you can have in your veins, the better. Same thing on the defensive side. If you guys make an error and you're kicking dirt and you're throwing your glove and you're saying profanity, all this stuff, same thing. That ball, it's like clockwork. That ball's going to find you again, and it's how you respond to it. And so again, when I would approach the plate, I would walk up like I was the baddest bee in that stadium. It did not matter. I chose a walk-up song that was just like scary in itself. Has anyone heard the song Bodies Hit the Floor? That was my walk-up song all 4 years. I never changed it. So, and that set the tone for the game too, because I was the leadoff hitter. And so when I would come out there to that song and walk up there with my shoulders back, my head high, like I'm going to beat you, I could make sure that pitcher knew that that was my mentality without ever saying a word. She knew that I was there to ball and that I was going to win. And that was the tone for the whole game.
Yeah. As a pitcher, I can say that's the most terrifying thing is if I throw a curve and she swung and missed on 0-0, I know I was just lucky that time. She's literally back in there the next pitch. I don't know if I'm going to get as lucky again. That's terrifying. Rather than a girl who's all annoyed or makes it look bad, I'm like, oh, I got her. With two more.
Yeah. And it's like even the simplest thing, like sighing or like looking at your coach and like rolling your eyes, or even looking at the umpire. Like if he called a strike that was clearly not a strike and you're like looking back at the umpire and giving him attitude, like all of those things are factors that pitchers look at. Like whether you think they are or not, you're sending a message to them that you're cracking. So the more you can eliminate that, the better you're going to be.
Yeah. Anybody else? I want you guys to get questions in. Audie, go ahead.
What was your work ethic like in high school?
Sure. So I was the kind of kid, to be honest with you, I did not live, eat, breathe softball. I'm just going to be honest. I was not that kid. I was very much into playing different sports. I was very much into going out with my friends and like hanging out. I went to school dances. Like I went to football games. I did all that stuff because for me, it's like if I eat, live, breathe softball, I'm not becoming a well-rounded person. And I think the more well-rounded you are as a person, the more well-rounded you are as an athlete, the better you're going to be at softball. Because when you overwork something and overuse something so much, it breaks down quicker. And so I see it all the time. Girls just die by softball. And then when they get to college, it's not fun anymore because it's been a job for so long, you know? And so just knowing that, you know, there's other aspects to life besides softball, like school, friends, family, church, sports, community service. Those are the things that you have to also consider as well. And I think that helped me love the game for a lot longer than a lot of other people.
Love that. I love that. Me and Eris will interrupt and ask you a question based on that for you guys. We were thinking because our teams, we have this struggle. I feel like we're trying to be really serious. We're trying to grind. You know what I mean? We're trying to instill all these things. But I want to teach them and hear from you a little bit about like where to balance that fun. Yeah. Like say high school or this age group, we have 12s, 14s, and 16s on here. And like you said, like even 10-year-olds now are so serious and like intense 6 days a week that what would be your advice to like balance that fun and seriousness?
I would say that like, it's called time blocking, right? I do it in my work. I used to do it in school. I used to do it in softball, and time blocking is something that helped me make sure that it wasn't about the amount of time I was putting in. It was the quality of the time that I was putting in. And so all these girls think I have to go out in the field and field 100 balls and I got to do this and I got to do this for 4 hours and this and that. And it's not like that. It doesn't have to be like that. And don't let anyone make you think otherwise. If you go out in the field or backyard or whatever, and you pitch 25 strikes in a row or whatever, that's better than pitching 150 pitches and not getting a whole lot of quality out of it. You know what I mean? So it's always quality over quantity. And then at the same time, you have to understand that like this time that you're in right now, you're never going to get it back. You're just not. And so now is the time to have fun, because when you get to college, it is a job. And if you want to go on after college, it's even more of a job because you're getting paid to do it. So now is the time that you really want to make sure that like you're just focusing on having fun. You're going out there, you're learning the game, you're being intense, but you're having fun and you're doing it for the right reasons. You're not doing it because you want to go to school for free. You're not doing it because your parents are making you. You're not doing it because that's the only place you have friends. Like, make sure you're doing it for all the right reasons. Because if you're doing it for the right reasons, it'll always be fun.
Totally.
Can you kind of talk about, like, say the moment that you knew, like, I want to play in college, like, what shifted or, like, what changed in, like, your daily life or, like, mentally, like, what was that transition like from, like, oh, this is just, like, something I'm doing to, like, oh, I want to do this at the next level?
Yeah.
Like,
honestly, I think my mind shift changed when people started showing interest in me, because I never really, it was just different back then, you know, like it wasn't as much of like a business operation as it is now. And so you have to understand that when I was in high school, college coaches would come to high school practices and watch girls. They didn't really go to like tournaments and stuff, only the big ones. And so I actually had Coach Clark come out to a high school practice. And so when I started getting interest from these schools is when my mindset kind of changed, because I don't think I actually ever knew how good I was until I was starting to get validation from schools. And I think when it clicked for me, it was like, oh, this could be something that could get me to where I want to go, which was a great school, a great education, you know, opportunities past school. That's when it clicked for me. And I think a lot of girls nowadays, what I've seen is that they get these scholarships where they verbally commit to something and then they stop trying because they're like, well, job's done, you know, nothing else to do. That's so far from where you need to be. It should be the complete opposite. You should work twice as hard to keep that spot, because the way that things go now, whether it's an injury, whether it's grades, whether it's money, whether coaches leave, things happen all the time. And so you have to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best position to keep that spot and never give someone a reason to take it away.
Any more questions, guys? Ale, go ahead.
Did you struggle with money, like financially, on paying schools, or before you got the 85% for scholarship?
Yeah. Oh yeah. My parents basically said like, I mean, we weren't poor, but we didn't have a lot of money. And I have a sister, so they had to put 2 people through college. And so I just felt like the more money I could get from softball, the better off my family was going to be, which was another driving factor. I didn't have someone to rely on paying for school, and I knew I wanted to go to college, and I knew I wanted to go to college where I could get a really good education. Community college was not it for me, and I knew that. And I knew that I had the ability to go further. And there's nothing wrong with community college. It's just I knew for myself that I wanted to go to the big school with the big lights and the crowds and all of that. I wanted that. And in order to do that, I had to put in the time and the work to do it. But I also had to apply for a lot of little scholarships. I applied for scholarships through community service that I was doing, through school, through ethnicity. My dad's Hispanic. So like literally Googling scholarships that you can apply for and just applying to every single one you can. That's what I did. My mom made me do that for like an hour, like every other day. So writing essays, I mean, all kinds of stuff. So don't just rely on softball to pay for your school. There's so many other opportunities for you guys to get money out there.
Yes. I remember some really good stories from ADI. I'm sure you guys do too, about when you were coaching, the kinds of things you noticed that girls did that were emailing you to come to your school. And, you know, in that process as a coach's eye from when you were a player, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, totally. So I had girls, like you have to understand that there's only so many schools in the US, right? And if you think about it, there's a certain number of D1, D2, D3, and then so on and so forth. So you have to think first and foremost, where do you want to go and why do you want to go there? And then 2, you have to think about all the girls that are out there that are playing softball that want to go to these schools as well. So how are you going to differentiate yourself from those other girls? Is it by sending an email? Because that's not it. If that's your strategy, we need to reevaluate, because think about the thousands and thousands of emails that they're getting on a daily basis from girls just like you. And so I had girls handwrite me notes. I had girls send me cards on holidays. I had girls that would send me, like, there was this one girl, I'll never forget, her name was Emily Reed. I coached back in 2013, 7 years ago. And I remember a girl, Emily Reed. She was like 6 feet tall and she had fiery red hair. And the only reason I remember her is not because she was a great player. She never played for me, but she sent me a card one day with a stick of gum that was big red and told me this little short story about how all of her friends call her Big Red. And so I watched her video, and sure enough, she was like 6 feet tall with fiery red hair. And I will never forget her. I won't. She ended up going to play for a school in Virginia, but to this day, I remember her. So it's just like little stuff like that, because you have to think, a lot of people don't take the time to sit and handwrite a note anymore. Everyone's just like, let me send a text, let me send a message, let me send an email. Those get lost all the time. So sending a physical letter or like a card or something like that, I still have cards that people sent me from when I was coaching. So
yeah, it's awesome advice.
Yeah.
Any more questions, girls? Don't be shy.
I got 15 minutes.
Yep. If not, she's gonna start rapping or I don't know what. So
advantage.
Questions. Celeste, Ray, Viv, go ahead.
What are some expectations that like coaches have for players? Like some like really good expectations.
Like as far as what? Like as far as like physical softball or like school?
Like attitude and just attitude. I want to know like attitude wise.
So I'll tell you, for me as a coach, what my expectations were, and I think they're probably pretty on par with what other coaches are, but there's 3 things you can control, right? Attitude, effort, and hustle, right? Those are the 3 things that you can control. There's a whole lot of other things that you can't control in the game. And I think those are the 3 things that stand out the most. But additionally, to get like a little bit deeper into that, it's how do they respond after errors? How do they treat their teammates? How do they talk to their coach? How do they talk to their parents? What kind of online social media presence do they have? All of these things are things that we looked at as coaches. If I saw a girl who was like yelling at her mom or her dad to carry her bag or get them water or get them snacks or whatever, I was like, nope. Or if I saw a girl that was like yelling at their coach because they didn't agree on something or whatever, nope. If I saw a girl that would post inappropriate things on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, nope. Like I literally cannot tell you how many girls I crossed off my list because of things like that.
Character.
Yep. Are they going to class? Are they doing well in class? Are they doing the things that they need to do outside of softball to make sure that they're bringing it every day and giving me the effort and that I expect? Those are the types of things that they look at. Are they putting in the extra effort? Are they helping their teammates put in the extra effort? Are they leaders on the field? Are they leaders off the field? I mean, there's so many different things. It's hard to just give like, one specific thing that coaches are looking for, because you may have that one specific thing, but if you're not doing these other things, it doesn't matter because everything's taken into account. There's not one thing that outweighs the other. And I would take a player with a good attitude that tries hard over a player that's a number one star. So,
Yeah.
because I can teach somebody how to play softball, I can't teach somebody how to be a good person.
Or pass a class.
Yeah. So.
Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, so like as far as like school wise, does like do coaches look like if you're in clubs and stuff like that, or that doesn't really matter?
I wouldn't say that it doesn't matter. I don't know if it holds as much weight as like going to class and getting good grades would be. But what I can tell you is just personally for me, I wanted to be a part of clubs because it helped me diversify my skill set, like as a person, right? So like I was a part of FCA. I was a part of the student club. Like I was the girl on the football field in overalls shooting out t-shirts from a cannon, like at football games. Like I did that type of stuff. And I think it really helped me get more in tune with my student, like than my athlete, you know what I mean? And get more involved. And I think just giving back to the community, a lot of community service stuff that we did, I think that helped too. And that stayed with me through college. Cause a lot of people, like you probably know, people in other sports or softball who are just known as the athlete. And it's like, it's someday that persona is not going to be around anymore. You're not just going to be an athlete anymore. And so what I would advise you guys to do is become well-rounded people now, so that when that day comes that you have to hang up your cleats, you still have an identity and you don't feel like you're totally lost in what you're trying to do in your life. Because that was me. I identified as an athlete so much that I forgot who I was off the field. And so for me, when I retired, I really struggled trying to figure out what else I was good at. And so I would highly, highly advise you guys to figure it out now and not when you're 25.
Preach. Same.
Can you give them some tips on what they can be doing during this quarantine and like while they have time at home, things that they should be doing either softball wise or just like whatever?
So I think this is a really good time to work on the foundations, right? Like getting back to the basics of like soft hands, eye-hand coordination, quick feet, endurance, right? Taking time to just go outside. I think another thing too, especially if, like it's helped me and make me realize like I needed a reset from the life I was living. I was living a fast life in terms of like I was just go, 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 go. And I think this has really forced me to like sit down and like talk to my friends more, FaceTime with my family more, like really cultivate those relationships that are important to me. And then also like I've seen people who are starting to read, who are starting to write, who are learning music, who are learning a different language. Like we're all in this together and we're all in the same boat. And you now have so much time in the day that you'll never get back when this quarantine's over. And so what you do with it is what's going to really show after this is done. Because you're going to be able to tell the people that didn't do anything with all this time and the people that really invested this time in different areas. So,
yeah.
Because if all you do is sit on the couch and Netflix and watch TikTok, people are going to know. Like, they're going to notice that because you're not going to come out of this quarantine with any new knowledge or any new skills or hobbies or anything else. So.
Nice. Any last questions before I kick you guys off? Because I want to talk to Taylor. Questions. Nat, go ahead, babe.
You said that you were like a good hitter. What are some things that you did to get there? Like,
I worked a lot off field by myself, either by myself or I would grab a teammate or two and we would go after study hall. Again, I watched film. I did a lot of stuff in my dorm room, like with hand-eye coordination, and just really understood. I would call my old hitting coach when I was in college and just really understood like what it was I was trying to do and where I was trying to get and how I was going to get there. And I know you guys have probably heard this a million times too, knowing that Tori, the kind of coach that she is that it's all about the process, right? It's what you do in the process that really affects the results. If we're always fixating on the results, we're never going to get to where we want to be because we're so worried about, I need to hit a home run. I need to not strike out. I need to do this. I need to do that. Instead of really focusing on the baby steps that are going to get you there.
Yes.
So, and trusting the process too, right? There's no miracle swing. There's nothing that's going to happen overnight. If you guys are having a bad game, you're more times than not going to figure it out in a game. Like you just have to understand that people have bad games. They have bad weekends. They have bad months. They have bad years.
mm-hmm.
I can tell you, like if you looked at my stats over the course of my 4 years at Texas, there were months where it was just like, I could not figure it out. And then there was months where I was unstoppable. For example, I'll tell you exactly. So there was my senior year and I had like a streak, right, of on base and I was leading the team. So I had gotten on base 37 games in a row, whether that was a hit, a walk or whatever. And I didn't really think much of it until I started getting press about it. So the record for on base for games in a row was Mickey Mantle, and it was 67 games in a row with being on base. And people started like talking and news started coming around and like articles were written and all this stuff. And I started letting it get to my head. And I got on base like against OU, against Baylor, against SEC schools, Pac-12 schools. Started getting in my head. We played Kansas, which is the last team in the Big 12, last place team in the Big 12. And I had a game where I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I totally ruined it. I ruined the whole streak because that's all I focused on was having to get on base. So instead of trusting the process, I totally just killed myself. So, and it sucked because it was against the last place team, which didn't feel good either. I wish it was against somebody that was like justifiably better than us, but it wasn't. So, and I will always remember that because I didn't trust the process.
That's so funny.
Yeah, because it still hurts a little bit.
Is it? All right, girls, last chance, last question. Nat, go ahead again. I thought it was a two-part you had.
Yeah, I have another one. In life and in softball, I tend to get in my head a lot and I overthink. I'm an overthinker, which affects my me playing. Yeah. So I was wondering what are some things that you do to help you get your mind off of that?
To be honest with you, I talk about it. I talk a lot. And I will ask friends, I will ask my spouse, I will ask my family, and I just have to talk it out. The more I talk it out, the better I am at getting to conclusions that I need to get me through it. But if I internalize everything and just try and work it out myself, I just end up stressing myself out more. And then coming up with game plans and strategies to get you to where you want to be, right? So for example, when all this quarantine stuff happened, I was really stressed out about money. And I was like, what am I going to do? I need to get money and I'm stressing myself out and it's comparing myself to all these other people. And it was just not a healthy situation. And so now it's okay, I'm going to save here. I'm going to, discontinue this. I'm going to focus on this. And then I'm going to pick up extra jobs where I can. And then, that's how I'm going to get to where I need to be. But just kind of coming up with a game plan and sticking to it and then talking to people about it. I think that's the biggest thing that we don't do as young women and as athletes because we're afraid to seem like we need help. But I think that's one of the biggest things we need to focus on is that when we need help, we ask somebody for it. Because I heard a quote last night on All American, the Netflix show, and I really liked it. And it was, closed mouths don't get fed.
Hey.
And I thought that was really cool. So if you need something or you want something, you have to ask for it.
Yeah. I love that.
So
you are not fighting a battle in your own head by yourself. There's plenty of other people who feel the same exact way as you do. That's so cool.
And you'll find that the more you vocalize it, the more you'll find people who are in your same situation, which also helps too. It makes you feel like not so alone. So.
Wow. Well, leave it to Taylor to go through all the best information in like the tiniest 40-minute time. That was so much good info, girls. You guys are very lucky ladies. Say thank you. You guys can unmute yourself. Say thank you. Eris, anything else?
Nope.
That was good. That was.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. You guys
Thank
hop
you.
off. I'll email you any assignments and stuff. Love you.
Bye.
I have a great day.
Taylor, you're staying home, baby.
I got like 5 minutes.
Good.